This is Melissa Norris, one of the founding partners of woman-owned executive search firm Jamesbeck. I am thrilled to be back here with Michael Hoeppner, founder of GK Training, a communications firm. Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm doing well.
We have a topic today that for me is a little bit otherworldly, virtual reality. Michael, you want to launch into this topic? You seem to know more about it than I do.
Well, yeah, I do want to launch into it. And I actually am going to challenge you. I bet you know more about it than you think. Not VR per se, but how VR will or will not affect our communication. And here's why. You have a very sophisticated bird's eye view into the world of search. That's a situation in which two parties are trying to get a very sophisticated and very authentic experience of the other to figure out if this is a good potential fit. You know all about that. So I'll put the question to you. Do you think that interaction, that evaluation will ever evolve to the point where it's entirely remote? And by remote, I'm talking not just video, I'm also talking distilled or catalyzed through or given through an experience of augmented reality or virtual reality. What do you think?
This is such a crazy topic to think about. Each of us has our own avatar, if you will, and we're presenting ourselves almost holistically, but in a technological vein. I still fully believe we will always have a hybrid structure. I think going forward, we will have the first interface in recruiting vis-a-vis over some technology interchange, whether it's Zoom, whether it's me being an avatar in a virtual reality space. I do think that's going to be the first round because it's so cost effective. It's a great way to get to know people very quickly and distill down to the top finalists of a search. But I think there's nothing that can replace the in-person meeting where you really get to know somebody. You get a feeling for cultural fit. How do they present? What's their executive presence like, et cetera. And if you think about it, culture is at the baseline of importance for any organization. If you do not have a good culture, think about the ramifications of that. You have a lot of attrition. If you have a lot of attrition, what happens? It's very hard to retain the people you have. They see people around them leaving. Two, it's hard to attract people because people see a firm that has a lot of a revolving door. They're not interested. They wonder what's wrong at the organization. Thirdly, and very importantly, you have client concerns. Client will question if you have PM turnover, do they want to continue to invest money in this organization? You have an issue if it's a fundraiser where you have a lot of turnover. There's concern with the investors they're engaging with. If they have a constant, turn rate of people who are interfacing with them from that organization, it causes a lot of concern. You cannot get to the bottom of cultural connectivity and appropriateness over technology, even if you're an avatar.
The reason I asked you the question is because I think the people who are in communication, like you, are going to have different answers across different industries, but I think you're basically right. I think it's going to be a blend, but I don't think we're ever going to replace this in-person moment in some ways.
The other comment I can make is the in-person piece I'm finding is paramount to somebody's success in onboarding and navigating an organization sufficiently. So I spoke to a client yesterday with whom I placed a candidate in January, and I was touching base to see how the candidate was performing. He made the comment that they went back to 3 days in the office, the same 3 days a couple of weeks ago, and he's noticed a dramatic difference in this candidate's ability to navigate the organization, create relationships, and honestly feel more settled and more comfortable within the organization. He said it was remarkable to see the difference. Before, he seemed a little bit floating, a little bit out of touch, didn't quite know where to interject himself. And now that they're coming back together, he's forming relationships, alliances, he's having a voice, he's more comfortable having a voice. So again, it comes back to this in-person piece is absolutely paramount to success.
I think you're right.
My second question for you, Michael, is really around how do we communicate virtually? Is technology going to change the way we communicate?
My answer to this is just a humorous story that you can think about. I promise you that the most frequent question I will get in the future as it relates to VR is people asking me, what should my avatar do with my hand gestures? That's the most frequent public speaking question I get too, is what should I do with my hands? My point is, people are going to have the same concerns. We like to teach that communication equals communication equals communication, meaning the same tenets apply. Being focused on the other person, using more of yourself, not less, sharing stories, not just explanations. These things are going to be true no matter what the format is. So part of the reason I offer that is because there can be an anxiety level that creeps in with Zoom, with video communication, of course, with VR, where people feel like it's very foreign, but it ultimately is the same thing. That doesn't mean there's some tweaks. Obviously, when you're on video, the relationship of eye contact changes a little bit, and that will be true with VR as well. But the core aspect, humans using language to share ideas with each other and impact the other person, it's going to remain. In many ways, it's what defines us as different from other species. It's not going anywhere.
From my perspective as a recruiter, what I find fascinating is I will have some candidates who will present in one way on Zoom, maybe very positively. And then when they go into interview in person, they come across very differently. And it's fascinating to me, and it can be the vice versa. They don't present so well on Zoom. I encourage the client to still see them because I know they're very strong. They go in person and the client is pleasantly surprised at how strong they are. So it's fascinating to me that there's this very different reality for individuals depending upon the modem of communication. And I feel like we all have to learn how to present in the same way, regardless of through which medium we're presenting, whether it's in person or over technology. I will say from my own perspective, I feel like I'm probably better on Zoom because I feel like there's a buffer there and I'm more confident to be myself, my more authentic self, and be more genuinely Melissa. When I get to an in-person meeting, I all of a sudden feel like it's more formal. I may have several people around the table. We're all in person. I put on this very formal, proper professional hat and I lose my authenticity. And that's a negative. I need to learn how to take what I've learned from my Zoom interviewing to my in-person.
The kernel within that is this: in those moments, you have become more self-focused rather than other-focused. So on Zoom, for whatever reason, it frees you up really just not to think about yourself, but rather the person you're talking to through the camera. I promise you, because I coach lots of these clients, not everybody feels that way. Many people feel the exact opposite. So the enemy here is not one channel or the other, meaning video versus something else. The enemy ultimately is self-focus that gets in the way of doing what we should do as human communicators, focusing on the other person. And when people can focus on the person they're talking to, what happens is they unlock being an integrated communicator, and they come across the same way in each of those different channels or each of those different types of communication.
So Michael, in light of what I just shared about having the challenges of going back to in real life and becoming this very formal professional person, are you having your clients share this concern and this challenge?
For sure. For sure. And I don't think it's just about this transition we're in the midst of going back to in person or back to the office. This will continue as new communication technologies emerge that change how humans from time immemorial have talked to each other. So one little simple thing I've been encouraging my clients to do is I've been saying, try to unwed yourself from this device when you're in low consequence situations in which other humans are around you. What I mean by that is if you're on a bus, on a train, on a subway, you're waiting in line at a coffee shop, all of the places where you might be by yourself, surrounded by a bunch of other humans, even at a cocktail event or a networking event, it's all too easy to set yourself up at some table round and look at your device and look as though you're really engaged in very important, serious matters because you're that busy as a professional that I have to attend to this right now. And really, you're just using it as a way to not have to talk to other people. So to the extent that you can put that device away and actually take the risk of saying words out loud to a person you don't know, it can be a great way to reprime that pump and remind yourself, I can do this. I've been doing it my whole darn life. And not just that, there are some awesome rewards that come from doing it. So it's a tiny little intervention you can put in your life when you're tempted to use your phone, not for information or communication, but as a comfort friend. Put your phone back in your pocket.
I feel sorry for all of the Starbucks people in line next to me. Thanks so much, Michael. This has been a very interesting topic, probably one of the most fascinating ones we've covered to date for me.
My pleasure. See you soon.